please?
Next on Three's Company.
A children's dentist? You want me to go to a children's dentist? What do you think I am, a child? Ah! Oh!
Hi. That's what's going to happen to you if you don't brush your teeth.
Three's Company, tomorrow night at 6 on TV 12.
This doll could be the only baby she'll ever have. Medical research now shows that marijuana is dangerous to your health. For example, one of the most harmful chemicals in marijuana smoke, THC, will stay in your body for a month, even after smoking just one joint. We now know that the accumulation of THC can interfere with the development and functioning of your reproductive system. These are the facts. The choice is up to you.
A message from the ELKS National Foundation Drug Awareness Council.
In every man, there's a boy waiting to be found, with all the innocence and wonder that will keep him young for as long as he lives. In every boy, there's a man waiting to be found, with all the strength of mind and purpose to make his way in the world. But the man he really becomes depends most on the man he admires. Help find the man in him and the boy in you. Be a big brother.
Irresistibly quick. Fresh milk makes it creamy. Quick, tastes so chocolatey. Undeniably rich and dreamy. Quick, warms the family. It could only be Nestle Quik. Real milk, real chocolatey. Can you resist?
Next on Battlestar Galactica.
Let the attack begin.
Let's get out of here.
Why?
It's an ambush.
And what is the standing order for humans from your imperious leader?
Extermination.
Then carry out your orders.
Sunday night at 5 on TV 12.
Supergirl has the ability to save millions upon millions of lives with her great superpowers. Americans have the ability to save thousands of lives, one at a time.
16,000 people die each year in car crashes that don't have to. Safety belts could save their lives. Safety belts could also prevent thousands from being horribly disfigured or crippled for life. So buckle up. Your life is in your hands.
Be sure to join us this week for more great motion picture entertainment on 12's 8 o'clock movie.
Good morning. Here's late news from the Channel 12 newsroom. In Scotland, they've told Union Carbide to keep out. Developers have voted thumbs down on plans for a Union Carbide gas blending plant because of the concerns of area residents. Union Carbide had insisted that the facility would be different from the one in India, where a leak of toxic gas killed more than 2,000 people. But that didn't sway the residents around Livingston, Scotland, who shouted down a Union Carbide official Friday as he outlined the company's plans. And as a result, the development firm has told Carbide to build elsewhere. President Reagan shouldn't expect much support for his budget-cutting plans from the chairman of the House Education and Labor Committee. California Democrat Augustus Hawkins says he'll fight for new education and job bills costing billions of dollars. But he also admits Reagan may get his way on many of his proposals to freeze or cut domestic spending. That's just what the president would like. He told a national radio audience he's trying to reduce government bureaucracy but needs some help from Congress. He says any thoughts of slashing the defense budget and raising taxes disappeared with his big election victory in November. In their response, Democrats accuse the president of not doing enough to help the people who keep us fed, American farmers. Nebraska Senator James Exxon says credit problems are a major catastrophe. Cheryl Liberté is very special to Massachusetts officials. She's the 13,000th person to lead the state welfare rolls and get a job. Many VIPs were on hand in Boston as she spoke to her classmates in a state-sponsored training program. She says her training gave her the skill and confidence to get out and look for a job. The 22-year-old begins working Monday at Massachusetts General Hospital. It was a dangerous reminder of the days when German planes dumped tons of explosives on England. Army experts in Sheffield, England, have defused a 2,200-pound World War II bomb dug up by construction workers. Some 300 people were evacuated for the tricky procedure. Mexico's central bank is reporting an inflation rate of 7.4% in January alone. It's a result of higher prices for gasoline, meat, and electricity. The Mexican government last week announced plans for a wide range of austerity measures to deal with the country's economic troubles. China is taking exception to U.S. plans to withhold $23 million from a United Nations birth control program. The official Chinese news agency says the Reagan administration is unreasonable to stop the funds on grounds it encourages abortions in China. The news agency also said news reports of forced abortions because of China's one-child family planning policy are distorted. From Connecticut to California, a series of fires left 18 people dead Saturday, just one day after 7 youngsters died in fires in Chicago and Mississippi. One of Saturday's fires killed 4 people in a home for the elderly in Los Angeles, and police have arrested a custodian there, a man they say has admitted setting other fires. An aide to South Korean dissident Kim Dae-jung says Kim was not allowed to leave his home to attend Sunday Mass, but there was apparently no confrontation between Kim and Korean authorities over the matter. There are still 2 sides to that story as far as Kim's status is concerned. He says he's under house arrest since his arrival from the U.S. The Seoul government says it's holding Kim for his own protection at his home. Either way, Kim cannot leave his home. The New York Times reports that the artificial heart of William Schrader is working perfectly, but the paper also says his memory is severely impaired by the strokes he suffered in mid-December, and doctors quoted by the Times say that's kept Schrader from being able to learn how to work the mechanism that powers his heart. In the meantime, Schrader is continuing his battle with what's believed to be the flu. A top Nazi accused of committing atrocities at the Auschwitz concentration camp during the Second World War may be moving between 3 South American countries in search of refuge. That from an American Justice Department official. John Loftus says he spoke with a lawyer who says Joseph Mengele left Paraguay in 1979 and returned there briefly for a visit in 1982 and has no intention of returning. Loftus says his source told him that Mengele, who was a major in the Nazi SS, is moving between Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay. Radio Hanoi says Vietnam has provided a U.S. technical team with new information on some Americans missing in action from the Vietnam War. The broadcast didn't give many other details, but did say the U.S. team was allowed to visit a site in Laos where an American warplane crashed during the fighting. An excavation is scheduled to start today. U.S. Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger is expected to put in a pitch for a space-based defense system at today's meeting of top NATO officials. President Reagan's proposal is already drawing some fire at the West German session. The French defense minister says the so-called Star Wars plan could tempt an enemy to stockpile enough offensive weapons to try to beat space defenses. Army experts in Sheffield, England were quick to make sure that the ghost of Hitler wouldn't kill more Britons as they defused a 1,000-kilogram bomb was left from the Second World War. Soviet commandos have begun making lightning helicopter raids on villages in eastern Afghanistan. Resistance fighters and newly arrived refugees say the commandos are hunting down guerrilla commanders and killing or driving out civilians. Up to 150 civilians are reported to have been killed in the raids in the past 3 weeks. More deaths may come as the helicopters push ahead with night sweeps farther north in the Kunar Valley. A prominent Soviet doctor says his country's president has been working, and in his words, that means he's not dying. The doctor did not say, however, whether 73-year-old Konstantin Chernenko is healthy or ill. He cited strict adherence to the Hippocratic Oath, saying he could disclose nothing about any patient's medical conditions. Egypt's foreign minister has ended talks in Washington with Secretary of State George Shultz, urging the U.S. to take a more active role in Middle East diplomacy. The Reagan administration isn't so inclined. Officials say the next move is up to King Hussein of Jordan to find a way to the negotiating table with Israel. The Bolivian government has devalued its currency and raised the price of food, gas, and other commodities in an effort to prevent economic collapse. Bolivian workers will get a pay raise to help offset the price increases. Gas prices are going up by 575%, and food will cost an average of 400% more. Bread has virtually disappeared from supermarket shelves in the South American country, and beef and poultry are available only to the wealthy. Austerity is the key word in Ethiopia, which is plagued by drought and famine. The government has announced fuel rationing and a ban on some imports. Ethiopia's Marxist leader said on his nation's radio and television that all able Ethiopians will be organized to work in relief camps and a resettlement program. Closer to home, the jury in Kevin Coe's rape retrial called it a day yesterday without reaching a verdict. The jury has announced it'll not deliberate today, but will start its sixth day of deliberations Monday morning. If jurors can't agree unanimously on their verdicts, the judge would declare a mistrial. The Spokane County Prosecutor's Office then would have to decide whether to try Coe a third time. Coe, a 38-year-old former real estate salesman, was charged in 4 of nearly 40 sexual attacks blamed on the South Hill rapist between 1978 and 1981 in Spokane. His original convictions were overturned last summer by the Washington Supreme Court, which cited numerous mistakes by the judge and prosecutor in the first trial. Child abuse charges against a 20-year-old Fort Lewis soldier were dropped after his 19-year-old wife confessed to hitting their 2-month-old daughter. That was at a hearing in Tacoma. And Pierce County Chief Criminal Deputy Prosecutor Chris Quinn Brindnall said Jonathan Bollinger tried to take responsibility for the beating last October. Miss Quinn Brindnall presented a quality plea statement from Bollinger's wife, Sandra. Her sentencing date was set for April 11th. 36 wild turkeys from Texas have been released in Washington. The State Game Department has promised to export a dozen otters in return. 20 of the Rio Grande turkeys were released in the Wenas Valley west of Yakima, and 16 were freed in the Kalakam area near Ellensburg. Some had transmitters attached, so biologists can keep track of them. The Game Department got the birds from the Texas Department of Parks and Wildlife. In return, it is picking up a river otto debt. Explains the department's Bob Byrne. They owed Missouri otters. Now we owe Missouri otters. We're going to send them about a dozen. Several hundred people gathered at Seattle's Federal Building to talk about what is polluting Puget Sound and what to do about it. Congressman Norm Dix told those at the Puget Sound Conference that it sets the framework for what it called the most important environmental challenge in the history of the state. Dix was joined at the conference by Governor Booth Gardner and Senator Dan Evans and more than 24 experts from federal, state, and local agencies that deal with Puget Sound. A federal researcher says that the pre-Christmas oil spill on the southern tip of Whidbey Island severely contaminated English sole in the area, but had little effect on butter clams. Donald Malin says his research team was able to determine the spill's effects because it had been collecting fish samples in the area before the spill for a Natural Cancer Institute study. A once convicted killer has again been sentenced by a separate jury to death for the shooting deaths of 2 Olympia area bank tellers. The Thurston County Superior Court yesterday ruled that 30-year-old Mitchell Roop deserved the death penalty he was handed during his original trial nearly on May 6, 1982. Well, here are winning numbers from the Saturday Washington State online triple choice lottery game and the Lotto game. The drawing for Lotto is once a week on Saturdays, while the triple choice drawing is 6 days a week. Triple choice. Here's your Lotto numbers: 3, 4, 16, 21, 23, and 24. In British Columbia news, police in Vancouver, the Vancouver area, are urging motorists to stay home following an afternoon snowfall. In Coquitlam and West Vancouver, where up to 10 centimeters of snow has fallen so far, say many roads are impassable, and they report numerous fender-bender accidents. A spokesman for the Continuing Care Employer Relations Association says BC's nurses have broken an agreement to provide essential services in their strike against long-term care residents in BC. And BC's 5,000 doctors in the provincial government have reached a tentative agreement for a new fee schedule effective March 31st. BC's chief provincial court judge says he'll continue his full trial duties despite a ruling from a colleague saying judges should not hold trials because they are not independent of the Attorney General's office or ministry. And the International Union of Operating Engineers is threatening a raiding war against the United Steelworkers of America after losing its 1,200-member bargaining unit at the Quintet coal mine to the rival mining union. Federal New Democratic Party leader Ed Broadbent has called for the resignation of Solicitor General Elmer McKay. Broadbent was in Vancouver for a party strategy session at which he called for more jobs and equality in the workplace for women. After 61 years, a Pioneer Vancouver Ford dealer is switching stables and will run with the General Motors pact. Dominion Vancouver Motors, one of the few downtown car dealers left in the city, will officially make the switch March 1st. The BC government has handed the Vancouver Stock Exchange the responsibility for registering local stockbrokers and brokerage houses. Bus drivers in the Lower Mainland are carrying knives, repellents, and wooden blocks to fend off attackers. Others are packing nightsticks and large flashlights. Union boss Colin Kelly says, fearing for their safety, drivers are taking steps to arm themselves for protection. Now let's turn to sports news. The Philadelphia Flyers snatched an important road win last night over the Washington Capitals. Brian Propp's goal with just 2 seconds to play in the third period lifted the Flyers to a 5-4 win over the Caps. While the Flyers and Caps continue their battle atop the Patrick standings, the New York Islanders have been quietly making a move of their own. Last night, the Isles earned their fourth straight win, dumping the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-1. And the Adams Division leading Buffalo Sabres continued their hot streak with a 6-1 win over the Calgary Flames. The league-leading Edmonton Oilers squeaked out a 6-5 win over the Detroit Red Wings. And the St. Louis Blues extended their unbeaten streak to 7 games with a 4-2 win over the Minnesota North Stars. Meanwhile, the Chicago Blackhawks remain 9 points behind the front-running Blues in the Norris Division with a 6-5 win over the Boston Bruins. In Montreal, the struggling Toronto Maple Leafs crushed the Canadiens 6-2. There were a couple of overtime ties yesterday. The New York Rangers and Whalers skated to a 2-2 draw in Hartford, and the New Jersey Devils and Quebec Nordiques also settled for a 2-2 tie. University of Washington Huskies are now in sole possession of fourth place in a tight Pac-10 race. The Huskies basketball team took a 67-61 come-from-behind victory over the UCL Bruins yesterday. The former Mary Slaney, the former Mary Decker, suffered an apparent muscle cramp and had to pull out of the women's 1,500-meter race at the U.S. Olympic Invitational Track and Field Meet. In other events, at the prestigious track and field meet at East Rutherford, New Jersey, Valerie Briscoe-Hooks set a new American indoor record in the women's 400-meter dash. Tampa Bay Bandits rolled to a 21-7 win over the New Jersey Generals Saturday night. Doug Gallen, the executive director of the USFL Players Association, says his group wants a collective bargaining agreement by February 24th. Now let's check the marine forecast for Cape Flattery to the mouth of the Columbia. Small craft advisories are up for southerly winds 10 to 20 knots. There are wind waves to 4 feet through Sunday, building to 10 feet Sunday night. And Strait of Juan de Fuca winds east 10 to 20 knots Sunday, increasing to 30 knots by tonight. Inland waters of western Washington, winds southerly to 15 knots. And our general forecast. Light snow accumulations possible, partial clearing, highs in the lower 40s, and by tonight, increasing chance of rain, possibly beginning as snow, lows mid to upper 30s. And Monday, rain likely with an increasing strong, gusty, southerly winds. So we may have snow tonight, but better tomorrow. You have a very pleasant day. Good morning.
You're watching KVOS TV, located in Bellingham, Washington. KVOS TV is owned by KVOS Television Corporation. Our studios and main offices are located at 1151 Ellis Street, Bellingham, Washington, 98225. Our transmitter stands atop Mount Constitution on Orcas Island, near East Sound, Washington. Our programs are designed for audiences in both Northwest Washington